It's a boater's paradise just off the east coast of Vancouver Island. Newcastle Island Provincial Marine Park has an intriguing history, but not all believe it's safe to venture there after dark.
We got a nice fire going here. It's an excellent night to camp. Kind of worried, Bill. I heard it was one of the most haunted places in the Pacific Northwest. What gives?
The real story is the presence of an axe murderer buried on the island. A true story. It deals with a gentleman who was from the Hawaiian Islands, a Kanaka called Peter Kakua, and he arrived in Nanaimo eventually after working in Victoria, married a local lady, had a young daughter, and was happy in Nanaimo until all of a sudden his wife said one day, "I'm sorry, Pete, I don't want to live with you anymore." And Pete got quite upset by this and he went out drinking. And when he came home that night about 2 o'clock in the morning, he found his wife and infant and mother and father-in-law all sleeping in his cabin.
What's going on here?
Peter was drunk. Anyway, a fight and an argument got going, and in the skirmish and the tussle, somebody bit Peter's thumb off, and this must have really enraged him. And Peter somehow picked up an axe and started to flail about indiscriminately. And all of a sudden, everything went quiet. Peter collapsed on the floor, fell asleep from his drunken stupor. And when he woke up the next morning, there was pools of blood all around. His young daughter was been decapitated. His wife had one of her arms cut off, and some of her intestines were hanging out. Mother and father-in-law were both dead. Poor old Pete, he thought, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble." So he just locked the door and bolted. Had a canoe hidden under the dock and paddled around, heading for Vancouver. Well, Vancouver wasn't there then, it was called going across. Anyway, he got around as far as Kanaka Bay and made up a small fire and basically fell asleep. The powers that be found out about the murder and they came looking for Peter and they found him. He was incarcerated in the jail underneath the bastion, taken to Victoria, tried, found guilty of the 4 murders, sent back to Nanaimo, put back in the jail under the bastion, and a couple days later he was taken outside the bastion and he was hung. So they decided the only thing to do was take him over to Newcastle Island, which was owned by the Hudson Bay Company, and they buried him in an unmarked grave at Kanaka Bay. That sounds simple. 30 years later, they were doing some exploratory work for the coal shaft over there, and they came across a box with a skeleton inside and a beautiful pair of shoes. The miners were absolutely horrified. They realized this was Kanaka Pete. And so they took him back, and Pete had a second life. They took him back to Newcastle Island, they buried him again in an unmarked grave, but Peter was still not very happy. So the rumor has it that at Newcastle Island here, just at dusk, Peter patrols the island looking for young people that he can scare the heck out of them by his movements. And that's the story, really. That's the ghost story of Peter Kakua. Now, how many islands in the Northwest have an axe murderer buried on their shores that nobody knows where it is?
Wow.
He's here. Listen.